we are going to get ready for Louis. So Louis can't stick out his tongue or whistle, but get this, guys. He can eat a whole chicken. Right? Okay. I'm hoping, he provided this, so I work with what I'm given. I'm hoping, though, and actually I know that what you're about to share with us is going to be great. So welcome Louis to share his fuck up.
Hello, hello, hello. 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 I am super excited to also be able to swear in a presentation. So I'm going to say fuck up and fuck and shit a whole lot, as much as I can, because I'm allowed to, so why not? So my story might be a little bit different than some of the other stories that happen here. It's not really around a project or a business per se of what my fuck up was. My fuck up was more around my personal life. So this story is about that, about how it impacted me and everything around me, what I did to get out of it, and a little glimpse of where I'm at today. Okay, so the story starts about 2.5 years ago. This is a picture of, this is actually me, pretty cool picture, huh? And it was also, this picture, I picked it because it's also a really great representation of where I thought I was at in my life at the time. And that was on top of the world. I felt it was like the peak of my life at the time. So I just started my dream corporate job at Target Canada. I was yeah, you know where this is going, I guess, huh? I was a buyer for electronics. I love gizmos. I got several promotions. I was traveling all the time. I was making 6 figures. I just bought a shiny, brand new condo downtown Toronto by the water. I was dating beautiful girls. I had finally settled down and was engaged to be married. My social life was awesome. I was healthy. Life was good. Or was it? As they say, everything that comes up must come down. And that's exactly what happened to me. In a matter of months, a whole lot of shit happened to me. Shitstorm, I like to say. Everything from having a good friend that passed away. I woke up one day, and as it's probably not a surprise to anyone here, woke up and discovered Target Canada went bankrupt. My dream job was gone in an instant from a phone call from my mom telling me she saw it on the news. At the same time, family members, my brother, my father lost their job. My relationship crumbled in pretty dramatic and shocking fashion months before my wedding. All this happening at the same time. And I remember there was one specific day that is like ingrained in my memory. And it was, basically I had like gone through 6 months after Target thinking I was gonna get a job like that. No. I struggled through all kinds of different interviews, rejection after rejection, and even after going like 3 or 4 rounds and feeling like I was wasting my life. And then there was this one day where I thought I had this new job lined up. They called me, they said in 2 days you're gonna get an offer. For me, that was a fresh start, best time to turn my life around. Felt pretty awesome. The day before I get that offer, I wake up, jump on Facebook as I normally do, and the first thing I see is that company then went bankrupt as well. It was Blacks Canada. Needless to say, the manager called me right after saying, hey, by the way, we're not giving you an offer. I was so flustered at this time with everything else going on around me. I really just wanted to clear my head and take a bike ride. I thought that's something I would just help at the time. I go outside on my balcony, grab my shiny bike. It's a beautiful day, take it downstairs, take a few steps, about to get on the bike, and I kid you not, it felt like a movie. It started pouring rain on me. And I just stood there laughing. I literally didn't know what else to do. It felt like I had kind of hit rock bottom. And it was kind of a weird feeling, too, because it felt like, hopefully, there was nowhere to go but up. Well, unfortunately, it got a little bit worse before it got better. So all that happened, and then I slowly, without even realizing it, slipped into pretty severe depression. So I was diagnosed by my doctor. At first, I was kind of in denial, but it was pretty bad. I really felt like I had no worth in this world. I felt like I had no purpose, nothing to offer. And it was so bad that I didn't even want to, I could not get out of bed because I didn't see the point of it. I got so numb to feeling that I isolated myself from family and friends further. And I literally felt like I couldn't feel anything. And as it got so bad that as one of my outlets to escape, I started gambling. And I lost like 25% of my life savings in like a few days. And sorry, Mom, if it's the first time you're hearing this. So that was kind of the bottom. And again, it was a pretty dark space for me. So you might be wondering, well, what was my fuck up? So my fuck up wasn't all this stuff that happened to me, because obviously I didn't choose that. My fuck up also wasn't the gambling, even though that was kind of a minor fuck up. But what was my major fuck up? Well, in order to discover that, we have to go back in time. Hence, I don't even know his name, but Back to the Future dude. Doc something. Yeah, Doc Brown. So let's go back in time a few years, because my fuck up was how I led my life and the decisions I made that got me to that point where the few things that happened, well, a bunch of things that happened to me, but that led me to, by the way, I hope you enjoy my Photoshop skills. That's me. That led me to crumbling, essentially. Because although I knew, or I thought at the time I was at the peak of my life, now in hindsight I can look back, and through learning, I know that I was actually on a super shaky foundation. And that's why that it was so easy for me to crumble and kind of lose my self-worth. And again, from my learnings, I know that there was two main components that created my fuck up for how I lived my life. The first one was being a cool dude. But really, I mean, I kind of lived a life where I always chased money and status. So I described kind of the things. I had jobs and promotions and all that stuff. But I got on what I call, or what is known as the hedonistic treadmill. I think it's hedonistic or hedonistic. I actually had anxiety about how to pronounce it. It's one of those. Essentially, I was like, anytime I got something, so I got a new promotion or a new job, it would be great for a few months, and then I would want better. I got a condo, and then I wanted a bigger condo. And I would constantly be comparing myself to other people and other successes, and it would never be enough. So every time I thought I would be happy with this, it just wasn't there, and I was on this constant treadmill. I also led a very selfish life, I would say, in terms of mindset, where most of my actions and activities, I would always think, what's in it for me? So I wouldn't necessarily align myself with someone new or do something new. I would take jobs just because it looked good on my resume. But yeah, I just did it for whatever was in it for me. The second main fuck up I did was I stopped doing the things I loved, and I stopped being me, really. I stopped allowing myself to be my true self. I, by nature, am super silly. Like, I just love being silly and fun. But I got myself into all of these kinds of situations where I didn't allow myself to do that. So I would take jobs just because it paid more money, but it kind of restricted me in the setting that I was in, and I didn't feel aligned. I didn't feel like my authentic self. I also stopped doing everything I loved. So I stopped playing sports and doing improv and doing all kinds of my passions and creative things. So what was the end result of those two things was that I essentially lost control of my self-worth and of my value, because I was putting all my value in other people and other things, and also the wrong things. So much that I was giving all my power away to possessions, material possessions, to jobs and money, to girls and people. I looked for so much of my value in kind of acceptance from just friends and other social things and dating, etc. So I knew I had to get out of this hole. I knew I had to climb out and see the light again, right? Easier said than done. I started kind of grasping at straws, trying to do anything I could to get out. But here's where the main learnings come out, and there was two core components that got me kind of out of this rut. The first one was what I would call investing in myself. And this is what I call my TSN turning point, and I attribute a lot of this to my brother, who is sitting in the audience. Yeah, for sure. I remember being in this dark shithole of a place, and I told you I'd try and swear. I was looking at hiring a life coach at the time, and I was asking my brother if I should do it because I was concerned about the financial investment, and also, I didn't have a job, so I was pretty worried about that. And he told me pretty bluntly, I don't remember his exact words, but in one way or another, he told me that it would be pretty stupid of me to not. Be pretty stupid of me not to invest in myself, especially now, if at any point in my life, this is the time to do it, right? Like, it was very clear I was in a very dark space and I needed help. And so I took his advice. So I hired this life coach. She got me into positive psychology, which I then started studying myself. I went to all kinds of counseling. I reconnected with my faith. But out of all this stuff, the two main things I really focused on was who I wanted to be and what my values were. So I kind of reevaluated how I wanted to live my life, figured out my values, and then started using those as my daily guidepost to how I lived my life. And then the second thing I did was start to do the things I love again and get back to being me. So this is me, not the guy with the sad face. I've always known this has been me, and I'm this silly guy, and when you get to know me, I'm just the guy that, it's funny because I'm introverted by nature, but in my group of friends, I'm like the crazy party animal that has all the stories. But I started doing things I loved again. So I started playing sports again. I started doing and practicing improv, which was a passion of mine. I had just stopped doing that. I bought a puppy who is adorable and amazing. If you guys agree, his name is Remix. He's also temporarily famous on Instagram. He had 5,000 followers. At Remix, the Happy Aussie, plug. So that all those things those were the two main components: investing in myself, getting back to doing the things I loved. And the end result and the conclusion is a few things. First of all, I'd no longer do things for passion and for status and money. I do it for things I love, and I align myself with things and people that I love and stick with that. 2, I founded a company called Fundamentals of Play that is founded on the same principles that got me out of my rut, play and positive psychology. So I run a whole bunch of workshops for that stuff. And all of it gave me the courage to take this leap of faith to become a passionate entrepreneur. And everything just started resonating, and was just having a conversation before with someone here about being in line with your values and how that starts attracting good things in your life. And that's what's been happening. So not just this company, but I now have one of the most beautiful people inside and out in my life, my current girlfriend. And just the people that have come into my life since have just been phenomenal. And the most important thing, I think, out of it all is that I know that I have now learned who I want to be, who I am, and I haven't attached my value to even things like my new company. Because I know if that's stripped away, I now have my solid foundation of who I am and my values, and I won't crumble the same way I did before. Thank you.
That was Louis, everyone. Another round of applause. Thank you, Louis. Amazing. So before we get to Q&A in a little bit, I want to note it's Agata, Alejandro, and Anna. So that's Louis' family over there. And if you guys want to find out more embarrassing, like really embarrassing things, not like he can eat a whole chicken, talk to them after. God, we should have talked. Okay. Now we get to talk to Will and Louie a little bit more. Before we do, I'm going to give you guys a minute because I want you to percolate the thoughts and the questions that we're about to come up with. And in order to do so, you can sit and talk to yourself or think to yourself, or talk to somebody that's sitting next to you, and ideally, somebody that you haven't met. So ready, set, go. Look into the eyes of somebody that you don't know. Say, hey, what'd you think? How did it make you feel? What resonated with you? What didn't make sense? What do you want to learn more about so that you can learn more about yourself and the things that drive you? Deal? All right, ready, set, go. I'll call you back in a minute.